understand in this fight, as Tim Walz likes to point out, we are joyful warriors. Joyful warriors. Should never again stand behind the seal of the President of the United States of America. Never again. Never again. Never again.
Let's bring in Executive VP of the Trump Organization, Eric Trump. So you just heard some of Kamala Harris's speech. I'm sorry to inflict that upon you, Eric. You're probably not going to sleep tonight. How do you think she's finishing this race?
Well, Jesse, I want to give you the first sentence and the last sentence of the speech because I thought it was very telling. The first sentence was, it doesn't have to be this way. The last sentence is, we have the power to turn the page. Guess who's sitting in the White House right now? It's not Donald Trump. Guess who's been sitting in the White House for the last, 12 of the last 16 years, Jesse? It's Democrats, right? She didn't give one substantive policy. She can't. All she can do is go out there and say Donald Trump's a bad man. He's not a good man. He's a this. He's a that. He's a very good man. Let me start there. But she's talking. Well, I would like to fix housing prices. Kamala, you caused it. You let 20 million illegal immigrants into this country. I mean, this is basic supply and demand that a 5-year-old child would understand. If you allow 20 million illegal immigrants into the country, you're probably going to create a housing crisis. When you spend literally trillions of dollars in waste, you're probably going to create inflation. When you decide to kill all oil and gas drilling and do a war on fossil fuels, you're probably going to cause energy prices to skyrocket. It's what's made this country unaffordable. Why didn't you fix these problems? And we've all been asking that literally for the last 3 months, but you go out there, you're campaigning every single day. I'm going to fix the problems. I'm going to fix them. Where have you been, Jesse? I mean, you know the White House very well. You've been there a bunch of times. I know it extremely well. Kamala's office is about 4 feet away from Joe Biden's office. Why haven't you fixed these problems? Why haven't you fixed the fentanyl problem in this country that's killing so many kids? 320,000 a year to be exact. Why haven't you fixed the cost of food? Why haven't you fixed inflation? Why haven't you stopped the wars, Ukraine? Why have we given $200 billion, to fund that effort so young kids can shoot each other in trenches? Why haven't we invested in Detroit and in Philadelphia and in Wisconsin and so many other states? Why? Why did FEMA run out of money? Why was the government nowhere to be found? She can't answer these questions, so the only thing she reverts to is, oh, Donald Trump's bad, and we're gonna turn the page. You've been there for 4 years. I agree. We should absolutely turn the page on the absolute dumpster fire that has been this administration that's embarrassed us in front of the entire world.
The wheels are coming off the car. They're spiraling. And now you see the accusations of the other side being Hitler or piles of garbage. You're going to hear a lot about threats to democracy in the next week. They are flailing, Sean. They understand Americans are not falling for their trick anymore. Donald Trump has a record that he's running on. They're frustrated by it. And I think it's, in some ways, a beautiful thing for our side to watch this completely come undone and turn the page on this ugly chapter of our history.
To watch Kamala tonight just flat out lie about abortion, about IVF, about limiting birth control, about blaming Trump for the border, not addressing the issues of law and order and safety and security, not addressing her own failures. I kept thinking to myself, wow, is this all you've got? I mean, is there not one thing you can point to that you feel is an accomplishment in your years as the second in charge of our country?
I think the answer to that question is no. There is nothing that she can point to as an accomplishment while she ran the country. And I think that's been evident in the case she's been making to voters. It has nothing to do with her own vision for the future, nothing to do with her own policy record, and everything to do with really made-up allegations against Donald Trump. She's trying to attribute views to Trump on issues like abortion and IVF that aren't actually Donald Trump's views. This is actually something that's really frustrating Democrats this cycle, Sean, is that Donald Trump has actually staked out positions on, let's just say, marriage equality, abortion, some of the issues where Democrats have historically accused Republicans of being extreme through the 2000s. Donald Trump has not adopted those so-called in the 2000s extreme positions. And that's frustrating Democrats deeply, and that's why they're resorting to threats of democracy or effectively threats on his own character. that have resulted in some ways in this charged national environment. I mean, think about this election. We've got 2 assassination attempts that have occurred in a matter of months, and yet they're still shamelessly comparing Donald Trump to Hitler and his supporters to Nazis. I think that they should, at least in this final 7 days when they know they're going to lose, apologize for that, tone that down so we can at least be united on the other side after Donald Trump wins this election. That's what I want to see.
It is really remarkable to me, and I predicted it would happen, and it's one of the reasons maybe I was a little repetitive in pointing out she co-sponsored with Bernie Sanders the Green New Deal, promised she'd eliminate the filibuster. She co-sponsored government health care for all, Medicare for all, elimination of private health insurance, gun confiscation or mandatory gun buyback, highlighting over and over saying banning fracking, no offshore drilling, pointing out what she tweeted out after a police precinct burned to the ground in the summer of 2020, a bail fund, and then saying on CBS that the rioters won't stop, they shouldn't stop, and she wouldn't stop supporting them, or her radical record on defund, dismantle, no bail, reimagine, her radical record of decriminalizing illegal immigration, offering free food, housing, health care, education, legal driver's licenses, sex change operations, and amnesty for illegals. And it's just the tip of the iceberg. The media never asked those questions. Those were her stated positions. How do you grade the media in this whole election?
I'd give them an F, maybe a D- if you include some that have at least gone the distance of actually at least highlighting some of her flip-flops. The reality is on all of those issues, Sean, those are areas where she has purported to change her mind. Here's one where she hasn't. She is still sticking to this one on a tax on unrealized capital gains. Remember, the economy is the #1 issue on the minds of American voters on the left and on the right. This is the single greatest way to trigger a second Great Depression and a stock market crash, by forcing people to sell assets when they don't have enough money to pay taxes that the government is going to assess on them, even when they don't have the cash to pay it. That's a tax on unrealized gains when the government tells you that your property's worth something when it may not even be worth that, where you have to write a check out of your bank account to pay it. That's something that Kamala Harris still stands by. Who knows? 7 days left. Maybe she'll reverse her stance on that, too. But the beautiful part about this is people aren't falling for it. I was at Madison Square Garden at that rally. I would have never imagined that in the year 2024, even just a few years ago, that a Republican candidate for U.S. president would not only fill that Madison Square Garden, but have 200,000 people lined up to get in. And that's because we're not just running to lead red states this time around. We're running to lead the United States of America. And that's what Donald Trump's going to do. They're frustrated by it. But in 7 days, we ultimately get the verdict from the people of this country.
And I hope the verdict is the right one. And I'm telling everybody, assume that your vote, especially in Georgia, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Michigan, Arizona, Nevada, that your vote will be the deciding vote in this election.
I mean, it was empty. I mean, it was uninspired. It was angry. Eric said it right. There is no substance to Kamala Harris. People say she's an empty suit. It's worse than that. She's actually a costume. She's wearing a costume. She's trying to be something that she's not. And you said well earlier, her record. She had the most liberal voting record of the modern era in the U.S. Senate. She is a San Francisco radical. So the empty campaign rhetoric is just not working. The people aren't buying it. And they're on our side. We're going to grow the House majority. We are going to take back the Senate. And Donald J. Trump is going back to the White House. That's what's going to happen.
It might not work to win the election, but if they lose the election, they're going to fall back on fascism. They're going to say Donald Trump's a dictator. And that who knows what kind of harebrained resistance schemes they're going to cook up this time. They threw the kitchen sink at him last time. What do you expect?
Well, look, they've shown what they're worth and what they will do. They'll engage in lawfare. They'll attack him personally. They'll take down the institutions of this country if it fits their agenda. I think you're going to have resistance. I wish none of that was true. I wish that we could unify as a country and move forward and fix everything that's broken. They've broken everything. I keep telling President Trump that, sir, I believe you're going to be the most consequential president of the modern era because we have to fix everything. We're going to have a policy agenda-driven administration and a Congress, a very aggressive first 100 days agenda, because we've got to get right to work to fix all these problems.
Well, tell me about that 100 days agenda. Give me the highlights of the first 100 days in Congress under your leadership, if you're so fortunate to stay in.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, I'll tell you the first agenda item immediately upon President Trump taking the oath we secure the border. That's the #1 issue of the American people for all the reasons we know. Congress will come right behind that with legislation to fix it, and we will turn immediately to the economy. The cost of living is destroying the finances of all these American families, and we know how to do it. This is not theoretical. We did this already. The first Trump administration delivered the greatest economy in the history of the world because we implemented the policies and the principles that we all believe in. We will extend the Trump-era tax cuts and make sure they don't expire and put the largest tax burden in history on the American people all at once. And then we will take a blowtorch to the regulatory state, Jesse. We are going to get the agencies off the backs of job creators and entrepreneurs and risk takers to institute and bring about a pro-growth economy again. Eric mentioned earlier the energy policy. That is a key component to this. It's important not only to our economy, but to our national security as well. We're going to do the opposite of everything that Joe and Kamala have done. The American people know that, and that's why we're going to win this thing and turn this country around.
All right, Speaker. Good to hear from you. The clock is ticking. We'll see how it shakes out. Close race.
Let's bring in former California Senate Majority Leader, retired Democratic State Senator Gloria Romero, and RNC National Spokeswoman Elizabeth Pipko. Thank you both for coming on. Here's Kamala Harris tonight calling the former president a tyrant, Elizabeth Pipko, and I'll get your take. Watch.
They didn't do that, only to see us submit to the will of another petty tyrant. These United States of America, we are not a vessel for the schemes of wannabe dictators.
What do you think of this closing argument strategy, Elizabeth? Because it seems to me like it's not, hey, we're doing this. It's about don't let him do that.
Right, you know, Trace, I'm furious tonight, like countless Americans around the world, with what our current commander-in-chief called millions of us, right? He called us garbage. So I think the only person possibly more upset than I am right now is Kamala Harris, who knows that nothing she said today, nothing she will say over the next 6 days is going to matter anymore because the Democrats today told us how they feel about us. I need to remind everyone watching right now, this is not the Democrat Party of your father and your grandfather. It's not the Democrat Party of JFK. It's not the party that my parents believe they should have registered under when they came to this country as Jewish immigrants. The party has changed. There's a party that doesn't care about Americans. They will stop at nothing to win an election, including calling their opponent Hitler when they know better. The American people obviously know better, and when American lives are on the line. I'm sickened tonight, truly sickened, not as a Republican or a Trump supporter, just as an American. I know countless others share that view.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.